Hello, sweethearts! Look, I've got this part here, and I want to print this in color. But painting in the standard way would take approximately one eternity. Today I want to show you a method that can completely change the way you approach creating models. With this method you can paint 100 elements in under a minute. Plus it has huge advantages in other aspects of printing too. And I'll definitely show those as well. So, get comfortable, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and let's finally start painting this part. I know what you came here for, but let's start with the basics. Why the standard coloring tools are useless in this particular case. Sure, modern slicers offer plenty of coloring features, but actually coloring a model can still take a ton of time. Let's look at my part as an example. I open the slicer, drop in the model and go to the painting tab. There are 6 tools to choose from. Well, technically 5, because gap and fill is completely useless here. The first tool is a circle. Basically, you should paint at the model from the center of the screen. You can adjust brush size and restrict movement to vertical or horizontal, so you can paint with straight strokes. Pros: you can do artistic painting. Cons: it doesn't paint anything that's not directly visible. But the real question is, would you really want to paint this entire model like that? I definitely wouldn't. Second tool: sphere. It's similar to circle, but instead of beam, it paints with a 3D ball, so it can reach hidden surfaces. But again, I personally don't feel like coloring this part that way. Next, triangles. Since STL files are literally made of triangles, it's a fun and sometimes useful method, but not for this project. Painting by layers, now we are getting somewhere. Since we print layer by layer logically, painting layer by layer also makes sense. But there is the issue. I want all the slots, the circles and components to stay the same color through the entire height. And you just can't achieve that with layer painting. We need something else. Next one is fill. This tool fills surfaces independently of layers. And if you increase the smart fill angle, it even fills circles as long as the angle between surfaces is within the limit. So yeah, if you have a couple of free evenings, you can nicely paint the whole model this way. But in my case, I had to repaint this model about 8 times. And if I had to click through every single face manually, that would take me an eternity, maybe even 2. So let's finally move to the method that lets you paint this entire model in about a minute. Just like any good magic trick, half of the success is preparation. Back in the modeling stage, you shouldn't create a single solid model. You need to build it as a set of separate bodies. Or in Fusion terms, one component containing all the bodies you want to color separately. Then we export the component as a mesh and open the slicer. Load the part, it looks just like in Fusion, so great start. Before painting, one more important tip. When I first got my printer, I didn't realize this, but the numbers assigned to colors in the IMS aren't just slot numbers, they are also hotkeys on your keyboard. Meaning you can simply click a model with your mouse, press the number key, and it instantly paint it. Keep that in mind. Next, open Objects menu, find your model, right click it, and choose Split to Parts. Or just click this icon. And now it becomes obvious why we separated all the bodies earlier. Once the model splits into individual objects, you can color each one effortlessly. Click the first one, press the number on your keyboard depending on the color, Then move through the list using the arrow keys and keep assigning colors. Coloring 100 pieces in under a minute becomes easy. And if you are Korean StarCraft Pro, you'll finish it in 5 seconds. And it already looks pretty fast. But what if I told you that with just a bit more prep work, you can color your model in the slicer way faster? Alright, watch this. We go back to the prep stage in Fusion. First, we group our bodies based on the color they're supposed to have. Then we create components for each color, drop the grouped bodies into them, and export those components as STL files. Next, open the slicer, select our 3 components and click Yes in the window that pops up. Go to the Objects tab, pick a component and assign a color by pressing the matching hotkey. Done! 114 parts colored in just 3 seconds. Is this a world record? I have no idea, but in my opinion it's still pretty fast for coloring that many parts. And you still keep the option to split the entire model into separate parts if you ever need to. But that's not the only benefit of this modeling method. I make these fun lamps. I talked about them in this video, so make sure to watch it later. I think it turned out pretty good. To get the texture I want, I use fuzzy skin. But the problem is, fuzzy skin appeals to the entire outer wall, including the mounting areas, which must stay smooth. So I model the part in several pieces, split it in slicer and apply fuzzy skin only where I need it. Another use of this approach is controlling the paint boundaries. For example, when you paint using standard tools, the color bleeds into the inner walls, which isn't always desirable. But if you create the wall and the circle as separate objects from the start, the color stays exactly within the geometric limits of the body you apply it to. And you can even place the internal little squares or accents inside the model. Great for lamps or vases as a design feature. And that's basically everything I wanted to share today. If you have ideas on how else this method could be used, drop them in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe if you're curious why I even needed this part in the first place. I will definitely talk about that in one of the upcoming videos. Bye!